So I got this kind of lengthy DM that somebody brought up, and they said, that he was talking about how that there's a lot of people who call for a bunch of crazy ass laws without thinking about the unintended consequences of those laws, later on down the road. And, and he's just kind of waking up to kind of see some of this stuff, how all this stuff is connected. And I want to be clear on this. There's two laws, and you've heard me say this before, if you followed my work, there's two laws on this planet. Only two. The laws of physics and the laws of conscience. Everything else is somebody's opinion. It's a lot of cases, it's somebody who got rich and now they need to create a law so that you can't get rich too. There's a lot of truth to that, okay? So what happens is that we're reactionary. People tend to be reactionary, okay? And that makes them say, oh, they see something horrible that happens, and they say, oh my God, we need to make a law to not have that happen again. Not realizing that a lot of times implies prior restraint, okay? And the founders of our country, the U.S., did not want prior restraint. And the reason you didn't want that is because you wanted to have maximum personal freedom and liberty. Because if you allow that, you allow maximum responsibility, right? Remember, just like we talked about, when you take away freedom and personal liberty, and then you take away ownership, responsibility goes right behind it. And as sure as night follows day. And then you have this disaster of a country where nobody wants to be responsible for anything, nobody wants to make a decision about anything, and everybody just sort of checks out. Well, yeah, that's because they're not really involved, right? So, yeah, part of the problem of creating a bunch of crazy ass laws is that you get a lot of unintended consequences, and it's something that we all have to watch out for. It's just how it is. Remember, we are responsive, right? People are very responsive and reactive, okay? So somebody reacts a certain way to us, and then so we have to react to them, right? Or we respond to them. And a lot of times, a lot of laws, unfortunately, get shoved down people's throat, get all over our throat, and they are not good ideas, right? Just because something is illegal doesn't mean it should be. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's a good idea to do it, right? I mean, there's all different kinds of examples you can probably come up with. But there's a lot of things that are perfectly legal, but you probably should not do them. They're not healthy, right? I mean, it's perfectly legal, I suppose, for you to eat burger douche, 5 meals a day, every day for 15 years. It's probably not a good idea to do that. You understand? So, and that's kind of how it is. So the unintended consequences of creating and then of course a lot of times a lot of laws that are created just because somebody got rich doing something and they want to stay rich now. So they lobby to create more and more laws to make it harder for anybody else to do that. We see this with corporate America. Corporate America is the one who lobbies for most of these restrictions and most of these EPA regulations and all that shit. They're the ones who lobby for all that shit, because they know that their smaller competitors can't compete with that. They know that they can't hire like full 10 full-time guys in the compliance office to comply with all this bullshit. They know that their smaller competitors can't afford that. There's just no way, especially when these mega companies, most of them are subsidized, right? I know that's a controversial way of saying that, but it's true. They're subsidized either through stock market largesse, or they're just straight up subsidized by fucking counterfeit dollars. Okay, so I wouldn't feel bad about that if you're and because you mentioned the idea of being like, well, just kind of getting going on all this. Like, don't feel bad, dude. Let me just explain something. For every one person that wakes up, let's say this week, that totally wakes up this week and goes, oh my God, what the fuck have we done? There's still probably 200 million behind him that are just full on fucking zombie mode. Okay, it's that bad. So there's a lot of people waking up, that's true, but it's not nearly fast enough. And one of the litmus tests, one of the gauges that I use personally is how many people are doing videos like this. You're not trying to get clicks and likes. You're not trying to make buddies with everybody. You're not trying to, you're just putting this stuff out there because you need to have more people talk about it. right? This is how you undo a mass psychosis, by the way. It's how you undo it, is everybody starting to talk about like logic and reason and like just being, straight up fucking intelligent about something. And that's how you undo the mass psychosis that we're all experiencing right now. And there aren't enough people doing it. And it takes a lot. I mean, if there were like, I would feel more comfortable if there were like 10 million more of me. Not me personally, and I don't want you to copy me. I'm not telling, this isn't an invitation to do this shit that I do. I'm just pointing out, like, if there were 10 million more people doing videos like this, not for the money, not for the glory, not for the clicks and the likes and bullshit, but they're just doing this because they're genuinely trying to wake people the fuck up out of this goddamn trance they're in, right? That's about what it would probably take, because I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? I have a lot of hate followers and shit like that. That's true. But I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? Because I'll say something, and people are just this way now. It's weird. Unless you agree with like every single word that comes out of somebody's mouth, as soon as they say something they disagree, oh, I hate that guy, unfollow, hit cancel. Like, dude, people are fucking weird right now, okay? And that's part of this mass psychosis, by the way, that's going on. And you have to get past that, because you can always learn something from somebody, even if you don't necessarily like them on a personal level. You can still learn something from them, right? That's very important. But that's logic, right? That's just being able to actually look at something or try and see it from their perspective. Like, this is where empathy comes from. Okay, so there's a lot of people out there that are still not doing that. There's a lot of people that talk about this kind of stuff privately, right? For real, there's a lot of folks out there that'll talk about the same kind of things that you'll see me talk about in private, maybe with their neighbor or someone they know really well, right? But they won't do something like this publicly because they're afraid of being canceled, or because they're afraid of what people will say or something like that and stuff. And in public speaking, people fear being unalive more than they fear public speaking, right? The trick, at least in my case, is once you realize that everybody is like universally fucked up on this planet. I mean, like universally, seriously. You are all equal cons in my eyes. You are all equal scumbags in my eyes. All of you. I don't give a shit who you are. Okay? It's just once you start to realize that everybody is just as fucked up, and you realize that if anybody you went out there, anyone, this is actually kind of a little lesson for maybe for the younger people out there who don't understand Gen Xers. Let me explain this. Anybody's life, anyone, I don't care who it is, if they are above the age of, say, 30, if you were to look into their life with a fine-tooth comb, you're going to find shit that they are really not proud of. That is every human being, dude. I mean, that they lament, that they sometimes are literally tortured by their own thoughts of something they did when they were like 14, or when they were like 17 or something like that. And they'll literally be tortured by their own thoughts because of something they did they truly have a hard time dealing with and processing, because it was something that went against who they were, right? It's called conscience, okay? It's called conscience. Remember, 2 laws on this planet: laws of physics and law of conscience. And I just explained to you how conscience works, and there's no escaping it. For more on conscience, for those of you that have got an artistic bent to you, if you really want to take the time to really understand it a little bit, for those of you that are a little artistic, if you want to know more about conscience, watch No Country for Old Men. It's a Cormac McCarthy screenplay that got turned into a book, that got turned back into a movie. And, it was written and directed by the Coen brothers. And it's a brilliant piece of cinematic history. It's spectacular. But if you want to know how conscience works, watch that movie.